Hello, everybody. Welcome to this SLTA talk. We are here today with Marco Henri of Omnilex. Hello, Marco.
Hi, cool to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Could you tell us a bit about Omnilex, what it does?
Sure. So Omnilex is really your sparring partner in the law firm, meaning it helps you getting an overview over the case, do legal research, analysis, draft conclusions, and then also communicate it back to your customer. So essentially, it's the lawyer's best friend.
The lawyer's best friend and a sparring partner.
And the sparring partner. That's a good combination, right?
So, Marco, your background is in process management, right?
Yeah.
And you worked at a top bank.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very comfortable job.
It is.
How do you get into creating Omnilex?
Sure. So back then, when I was working as a process manager, part of my work was to also optimize legal and compliance processes. And looking back, I was just really shocked about how old-fashioned some work was done there. And that sparked the interest for myself for that intersection between the law and at the same time, you have all these technologies that are coming up with LLMs, but also generally AI. And I think that was kind of the trigger for myself.
But the bank the bank has a huge fintech industry,
Mm-hmm.
but you chose to go to lawyers.
Yeah, lawyers are also in the banking sector, right? So I see it as a problem that is not just related to the legal sector, but across industries.
Okay. And so you have this process background, and processes are very often something that is suboptimal in law firms.
Mm-hmm.
So did that really connect when you were building Omnilex?
Yeah, I experienced that firsthand in the bank, right? But I would say it's also the case for many other places as also law firms. And I think that's also kind of our philosophy, because we're going beyond just implementing any LLM and making it accessible through a nice UI or something. We really try to replicate and imitate the lawyer's workflow. And there, the methodology and the structure must be represented in the logic, right?
Yeah, obviously. You mentioned that you need a really simple interface, and lawyers often don't have a technological background.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this interface have to look so that lawyers can easily use it?
Mm-hmm. All right. The less you have on the screen, the easier it is for you to see what needs to be done, right? And it's really all about simplicity. We want to make it accessible for every lawyer, not only the ones with a technological background. So it's really about reducing the potentially used buttons or interactions.
Yeah, indeed. And so you have this idea that Omnilex thinks like a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean in practice? Omnilex thinks like a lawyer.
So in practice, that means that we're trying to foster the reasoning going through the methodology and structure that a lawyer would go through himself when doing legal work. And part of that concept, of course, is not only to give the methodology, but also the right sources that lawyers trust, right? So we also put a big focus on having the right data. And that's really also a key factor to be even able to reason the same way and think the same way like a lawyer does.
You really went to talk to a control group of lawyers, and you tried to figure out what is the typical methodology to solve legal problems. Is that how you arrived at this methodology?
Yes, exactly. And that's something that we still do until today, because you never stop learning, right? And we also want to improve it on a daily basis.
And so how do you do it in practical terms? Do you highlight specific arguments? Do you highlight specific sources?
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like if I am a lawyer using the software?
It depends, of course, on how and for what you're using it. But essentially what Omnilex does is it's also adapting to the case you're working on. And that's also the challenging part of it, right? Because the methodology of a lawyer is differing very much based on what he's doing right now. So Omnilex does have to do that too.
And you needed to have access to quite a large database of case law.
Absolutely.
So how did you get access to that? Because it's not so easy to get access to court decisions for all cantons. The Swiss Supreme Court is obviously online, but You need the formatting, etc. How did you do to get the database?
First of all, we of course cover all the law on a federal and cantonal level, and even more and more on a communal level, which is, for example, for construction law very relevant, right? Then same goes for the court decisions and case law. We cover on a federal and a cantonal level. Then basically everything with legal content that is publicly in the internet. Then we also do have some licensed data, which particularly is useful for certain fields of the law. We also integrate all the internal knowledge of the company. So we're not only relying on the external data, but also really on the knowledge of the law firm or the company. And on top of all of that, we also have our own commentaries, which are based on literature references that are accessible publicly. And that's also something that really sets us apart.
All right. Thank you very much for those details. That's very interesting. I'd like to switch to your clients. So in your experience, so how advanced are lawyers when it comes to using AI? Like, how is your experience with them using AI?
I mean, I can only judge that for what I've seen, of course, but I would say the range is super broad. So you have like everything from people that never heard about it to others that know as much as we do. So yeah, I would say it's kind of, we're in the process of people getting interested and people getting experts to be experts in it.
Your client base is, where would your client base sit on a spectrum from 0 being, I don't know anything, and 100 being, you guys know as much as we do. So where does your client base sit on average?
On average, I would say on the upper half of the spectrum. So they do know about AI. They've used other tools before. Many of our customers also did extensive testing with other alternatives before they decided to take ours. So I would say we're rather serving the customers that have an actual interest in it and also a certain sensitivity for the topic.
Do you see any areas of focus where, we should be training perhaps lawyers more in comparison to neighboring countries? Did you have this comparison with neighboring countries?
Omnilex currently is present in Switzerland and Germany and Liechtenstein, so kind of a bit, but I wouldn't say enough to really judge that. But I think something to learn, and it's not even a question of knowledge, but more of an attitude. I think lawyers should be open to look at things and test things out, right? Because I see that as the most forward way how to get sensibilized by the topic, and also the most easiest and most comfortable way for the lawyer to do that. So my advice would be, hey, be open and try things out.
Yeah, that makes all this. I mean, you should always be open.
Yeah, exactly.
Technology, there's no way you're not. I mean, even
Absolutely.
today, you have this need for horizontal skills. You can't just be a specialized person in one field, a specialist in one field. You need this sort of horizontal flexibility, no?
Yeah, or at least some awareness, right? Yeah.
And so you have a very interesting client base because you don't only have lawyers, you also have in-house counsels, you have insurances, if I understood correctly. So do you see differences in these groups of users? What kind of differences, if you see any?
Sure. I mean, Omnilex is used by only legal professionals, but as you said, across different sectors. And I would say the main difference between a lawyer in a law firm and in a legal team is that in the legal team, it's more transactional. So in the law firm, it's really about working on a case and intensively working on this case, whereby in an insurance or in a legal team, it's often also about the volume. Right. And of course, that's important to consider when offering something, because the question is whether you want to help them increase the volume or go to have a high put through, or if you want to help them to dig deeper and dive deeper into the case.
So what does this volume look like? For example, for insurance companies or legal departments, what does it What does it look like?
I mean, two very common use cases there are claims management, right? You just get a very high volume of claims of your customers that you need to back check, that you need to work on. And in the legal teams, I mean, the typical example here are contracts. That can be NDA checks, that can be labor work or labor law related contracts, and procurement contracts and whatever, right? So there it's really about, for example, the put through of checking contracts, working on contracts.
Do you get any concerns from lawyers? Because we've all heard about the case of that lawyer who was misled by a hallucination of the AI.
Yeah.
I still find the word hallucination a bit improper, because it's not really a hallucination. It's just a bad probability path. But that, I mean, this shocked the legal world when it came up. There was also this judge in Brazil who decided to use AI and was caught. And it went much better for him than it went for the lawyer who got caught. He was able to dodge it. But I mean, we've had the use cases and we're still seeing them happen.
Yeah.
We're still seeing them on the market. Do you have these concerns being expressed by your clients? How do you reassure them? How do you handle that?
Yeah, we surely do. And I see the responsibility for that more on the provider side than on the lawyer side, because at the end, AI and all the solutions that are using AI is and are an instrument for the lawyer's work, right? So I see the responsibility not only with the lawyer, but really also with us. And therefore, our solution is designed in a way that really in every step of the work, you're able to back check everything, to reassure yourself, and so that everything is super transparent, right? And I think that's also important, because that's how lawyers worked before, and that's how lawyers will work in the future. So we try to give everything to the lawyer that he's able to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that taps into one of the visions you have for Omnilex. It's hybrid teams. What do you mean by a hybrid team? Because you said it was really structured as a pyramid today, with the partners on top, the juniors at the bottom. How do you see this model evolving?
Sure. So the when it comes to the structure of the organization, I don't think that Omnilex will change that soon. But what I see already today is, on the one hand side, partners that are starting to work more independently again because they have Omnilex, which is pretty cool in my opinion. And then also that the interaction and the work between the associates and the partners becomes more tighter, because there's an easy way how to streamline the process over one platform, right? So those are two things that we already see, and I find it pretty cool that it works that way. And our vision is really not only to support you in the different steps, but that Omnilex becomes more than your sparring partner and really does the heavy load for you. So kind of an end-to-end case support with Omnilex, and then it's really about having this support in every edge of the law firm, right?
But then that is maybe going to have an impact on junior lawyers during joining, because we're seeing headlines where people say, the junior level jobs are at risk. I personally don't believe that to the extent that it's being sold to us, because the AI doesn't have the office life context. It doesn't have a context window, meaning it can only consider a limited amount of information when you ask a question of it. Sure, it has access to the entirety of human knowledge, but that is not case-specific knowledge. It might not have been trained on the interactions you had with the clients, on lunch discussions. You might be missing out on the social element. A lot of people get their brains flowing when they can have a heated exchange with a colleague. So I don't see this disappearance of junior lawyers the way it's been sold to us. But how do you see these junior roles evolving over the next 5 years? Is a lot of time in today's technology.
Yeah, that's true.
How do you see it evolving in the future?
Yeah. So what I think that will happen is that juniors will arrive quicker at the point where they can do the work of a partner. And you also mentioned the argument that we hear a lot about, that this role will become obsolete, right? I think as long as the human interaction and human relationship will play a role, that won't happen. But the question for me is more about how long will that stay the same, right? Because as soon as people will start to feel more comfortable without that human relationship, then things will gonna change. But the question really is, when will that happen, and whether it will happen even.
Would you have any advice to give to junior lawyers today? Because I mean, you're in a startup. You probably have junior practitioners. You're seeing people come out of university.
Yeah.
What kind of advice can you give?
My advice would be, hey, try to become an expert in what comes next. I know it's very abstract, but I mean, look at the topic and learn things about it, try things out, and just try to keep up with the new things that are coming, and then you will also stay more relevant in the job market.
Have you noticed any law firms relying on junior lawyers for their digital transformation? That's something I've seen happen, even for a summer trainee.
Do you think it makes sense?
I don't think it makes sense, but have you seen it happen?
I've seen it, and actually I like it somehow, because I could imagine that the mindset or the thought behind that is that they want to bring in people that have the thrive and the knowledge of what's happening right now, right? Because that's something that sometimes is missing with the older generations. So actually I find it a cool idea. Whether it should be the only one in the company doing it, that's not a question, but hey, involve the young ones. That makes a lot of sense.
Involving them, yes.
Yeah.
Giving them the responsibility of
that's a big
it.
difference, right?
Especially because we're not trained into data science when we're at university.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not trained into change management.
Yeah.
So there are gaps in essential knowledge if you want to conduct transformation. But however, to be a force in favor of change, they're a great force in favor of change.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so legal research is a hot topic. And even giants like LexisNexis are adding AI. It's a race to add AI to any kind of software.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you stay ahead?
So I think to be able, or to have a demand for your solution, it's really about whether you can serve the needs of the customer, right? And the more narrowed down your customer is, and the more maybe also niche your customer is, the easier it is to find a sweet spot where you're great and ideally better than the others. So I think what's very important, and we actually do have that too, even though we have a broad palette of customers, we have a very clear focus on one customer segment, and we're really optimizing for that customer segment. And as they have very different requirements from others, we can be the best solution for this certain segment just by adapting completely to their requirements, right? So that's kind of how I see it. And of course, the one providing the most value eventually should be the one that is used. But that's not the only factor that plays a role. Go-to-market, of course, is a big topic. I mean, we're seeing so many investments right now in LegalTech. That's also just to secure the speed and to secure spots and create lock-in effect. So there are many things that play a role, but at the end, we try just to be the best solution for the segment we serve.
Do you think it adds extra value to be a local provider?
If local provider just means that you have an office, then not. But if local provider means that you have access to the relevant data, you have people speaking the language, people understanding the market, then yes.
And even in the legal industry where it's a highly localized service.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do your clients generally welcome the fact that you are a provider on the local market because they feel that you will have better knowledge of the local legal system?
I would say so.
So what has been the most challenging part for you to build Omnilex? Because we know the entrepreneurial journey is a lonely one. Nobody, because we always see those people I mean, it looks like everybody's succeeding as soon as you go on social media.
Yeah.
But between every successful picture, I feel there are a lot of lonely moments.
Yeah, fails are not shared, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
No, that's true. The biggest challenge for us, I would say, at the beginning, we were a bunch of guys, or a team with an average age of 24 years or something, without any lawyer in the team. So the challenge in the beginning really was to convince lawyers, hey, a young team without legal knowledge can really help you. And as you know, reputation is a big topic. Trust is a big topic when speaking and selling to lawyers. So we took a moment to build that up. Today, I would say we have that. We have a collaboration we're working together with the Federal Chancellery. We do research with the Federal Court. We have big brands in our customer portfolio. So things changed, but in the beginning, that was really like the thing we had to get.
How did you overcome that challenge? Because it's hard in my experience, in the way I see it. It's very hard to persuade a lawyer that a non-lawyer knows anything about the law.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what helped us there a lot is our solution was very easy to test. And it's pretty convincing when you test it and see the value directly within minutes, right? So what we really did is we tried to make it very easy and very comfortable for them to say, hey, all right, I will try it out. Because once they tried it out, they saw, hey, actually those young guys can do something that helps me. And then it started to switch. Once we've got a few customers, things got easier.
That's very interesting, because what I get from what you're saying is that you focused a lot on the user experience, making sure that it was easy to use, so that nobody could, so that there wasn't this barrier where you're thinking like, well, I'm okay, never.
Exactly.
And then the second thing you did was ensure that the results were good enough to persuade people to persuade your clients that what you were doing was actually good.
Exactly.
So it was a double-pronged solution to a problem.
Yeah.
Good design and good results.
Yeah, exactly. I would describing it in providing value and making the value accessible.
Yeah, that is a very good way to put it. So in a perfect scenario, where do you see yourself in the next years?
So as you said before, 5 years is a long time. So I'm not confident in saying where we are in 5 years, but I can try to do that for...
Or would you like to be?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you where we plan to be in 1 year, because that's kind of more certain in my opinion. So we really want to be the solution for the lawyer, supporting him along the way of a whole case, right? And not only by, we're helping optimizing this process or this process, but really by doing the heavy load for the lawyer, so that the lawyer becomes more of an orchestrator with the strategic knowledge and the human relationship to the customer. And Omnilex is really like your hard-working guy that you can rely on.
I'm just thinking on a regular basis, how as a company, like you're not a startup, you're just a regular company, you're competing on the market with other competitors, and you have these new techs that revolutionize your industry every 6 months.
Yeah.
What is the logic of doing that? Like, if you're creating, if you're an OpenAI or you're an Anthropic or you're a Meta, and you're developing these AIs and you're pushing out new models with new capabilities, everything every 6 months, how are clients expected to keep up?
Yeah.
What's the logic?
No, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that, because on the one hand side, I would say it has never been easier to enter a market because of what you just mentioned. But at the same time, it's also super hard to, once you've entered and established the market, to stay up to date, right? So I see that as a real threat for bigger companies right now, because things are getting revolutionized on a 2-month cycle, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, a very good example of that, recently, a study came out that showed that LLMs were causing people to lose cognitive capabilities.
Yeah, the MIT research paper most probably,
Exactly.
yeah.
And just 2 months later, I think, OpenAI comes up with the study mode for its AI.
Yeah.
The problem barely came out.
Yeah.
Have a solution.
No, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
I feel there is a very big gap between the time a software comes up and the impact it can have on the market in terms of how it's going to be used by the intended user base. I talk to a lot of people who use OpenAI on a daily basis. Most of them don't know about O3. They don't know about 1, 4, 5. They had no idea. They were just basically just using 4.0, which was by far a less effective model than O3.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it should be the provider making it more easy to stay up to date, right? But I can say that out of first hand that this is also pretty challenging to kind of have everyone that is using your product up to date with the latest things.
Yeah, and that is not a problem we're going to solve today. I think
exactly.
It's going to get worse. Although GPT-5 had performance levels that were not as dramatically better than O3 was or that 4.0 was, it looks like it's the progress is incrementally much less significant. So we might be at a phase where things are slowing down, maybe.
Yeah, or things are slowing down because the next big thing is warming up. That could also be, right?
Yeah. All right. A couple questions about the current Swiss market. So how do you see the Swiss legal tech market? Like, what do you see? What kind of trends do you see? Do you see a difference? Because you're based in Swiss Germany. Do you see a difference between the French-speaking part, the German-speaking part? How do you assess the Swiss legal market currently?
So when it comes to the differentiation between the French and the German part, I would say, but that's only our experience.
Yeah, obviously.
There's not such big of a difference like people might expect. Of course, there are some like difference when it comes to etiquette maybe, or how you interact, but they aren't that big. We have customers in the French part, we have customers in the German part, we have customers in the Italian part, and I mean, we do it all in the team for all 3 regions I work. So yeah, I don't think that it's that big of a difference. Then regarding the market in general, I mean, it's still a hot topic, right? And adoption is getting higher in the law firms. So what I see is that there are many providers popping up that claim to do something new or better or different, but where in reality it's actually just another provider doing another similar thing, probably similar quality or value or less. So I think it's also becoming hard for the law firms and the others to kind of stay up to date with what's the best and on the market, because it gets flooded.
How do you feel your experience was as a founder to create a company, a legal tech in Switzerland? How is the environment to create a startup in Switzerland in this specific field?
It's maybe a bit hard to answer because we see each other more as a tech than a legal startup. Of course, we're a legal tech, but we're more in the tech environment and tech space. We're ETH based. We're in the environment of all other. This environment is super great. The legal for me is not that present, at least for what we've seen. But of course, for example, the SLTA is a very cool thing. We've attended the first events in the very early days of Omnilex, and it helped us to get to know the industry quicker, to get useful and promising contacts in the early days of Omnilex. So I think it was for sure a head start that we could get out of it, and that's cool for everyone that is new.
Did you have any issues finding financing, or did you have any specific topic where you felt, well, it would have been good if we did something differently, if we'd done this that way or this way?
When it comes to the support in the market or the environment, I wouldn't say so.
Okay. Cool. So that leaves us with a good conclusion. That
Yeah.
We do.
The conclusion is exactly. The conclusion is Switzerland is the greatest country.
Oh no, we can't go that way, please.
No,
Sometimes we're doing well, sometimes we're not.
Yeah, of course.
I know, at least from my experience, it was very difficult to get access to financing, but we were not ETH based.
Yeah.
It was we had to rely on private investors.
Yeah.
And then the tax incentives weren't that great either, because we were getting taxed on the investment money. All right. Thank you very much, Marco. It was very good to have you with us today. So you can follow SLTA on LinkedIn. You can follow us on our website, swisslegaltech.ch. And this will be on our YouTube channel, Swiss Legal Tech. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure. Thanks.
Hope to see you soon again. Thank you.
Likewise.